One of the things I often tell my clients and colleagues is that all the easy problems have already been solved. Success in the context of challenging problems and complicated times requires adaptation, innovation, and perseverance. Today, we're going to talk with the founder of an organization that's demonstrating creativity, innovation, and stick-with-it-ness as it addresses multiple challenges. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Coffee Time with Masterminds. My name is Peter Blakely, and I'm the founder and principal of Blakely Consulting.
Welcome to Coffee Time with Masterminds. I am Cynthia Rojas, founder and principal of To Your Growth.
Welcome to Coffee Time with Masterminds. I'm Rebecca Tuttle, founder and principal of Grant Right Now and Grant Writing for Good.
I'm Peter Blakely, founder and principal of Blakely Consulting. And today we're beginning a series on innovative solutions to hard problems. Ming-Ming Tung-Edelman is the founder and executive director at the Refugee Artisan Initiative in Seattle. Her organization is taking on multiple challenges at the same time with one innovative approach. The RAI fosters an inclusive and prosperous transition to the United States through artisan skills, training, and zero waste and small batch manufacturing. Ming-Ming, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me, for being here and share our organization. I'm the founder and executive director since 2017. So we're still a relatively young organization, but my desire to, in terms of sustainability, learning about that more than 85% of textile end up in the landfills, and refugee women has over 60% unemployment rate. So about 6 years ago, there was this light bulb moment. Why not combine the two and create jobs? And that's exactly what we do here at RAI, Refugee Arts Initiative.
Yeah, so say a little bit more about the inspiration for this business model.
Well, I grew up in Taiwan, and my ama, which is grandma in Taiwanese, she was a single mother, able to put food on the table, working from home as a seamstress, making clothes for women in her neighborhood. That's how she's able to, support her family. And she made all my clothes growing up. I have countless matching look with my late sister. We looked like adorable twins in our Chinese qipao, plaid suits, and sunflower dresses. So she had a huge impact on me. She demonstrated that if you give women tools and skills, they can become self-sufficient. So that always in the back of my mind. And that's how is my inspiration to start this organization.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things that's especially interesting to me is that once your artisans have developed the skills that they need, RAI helps them get their own business license and sends them off on their own. Why is that an important part of the business model?
In order to grow, we believe that micro business is a way to not only build skill, build confidence, and build self-sufficiency. And our motto is that, okay, you don't speak English, that's okay, but you have the skill, that you have the desire to improve your circumstance. So what we onboarding you is to actually make sure that you get your business license so you can start having your micro business, because most of these women that we serve, they're mothers with children, they cannot be in a traditional workforce. Be there, show up. It just for a lot of them, it's impossible. They barely speak English. Language is a barrier. A lot of them don't drive or can't afford buying a car, and can live very far away from the desired employment place. And some of them have up to 6 children. So there's no one else who really want to hire them. By creating your micro business, you are in charge, right? Because we let them decide as little and as many workers we have, and by using the skill they have, and they can quickly earn their first paycheck in America using the skill they have. We want to knock down the traditional workforce concept of you're not enough. You need to be trained. You got to go to the English class. You got to go to the job training class, find childcare. And that is simply not possible in this population. So we have to think reverse. We want to think about that they are enough as who they are. Because
this This speaks to me so much because, my background is in workforce development.
Oh,
That's completely the world that I came from, and why I ended up an evaluator was, I also have some problems with the model of workforce development, with the, you are a potential worker first, right?
yes,
More than you're like a person, an individual, and um, and you have deficits, right? And then the
yes.
model is like, take these individuals with deficits and adapt them to what employers want. So I find the way you have articulated this problem, and you've touched on all of the problems that I've looked at in my research about childcare and transportation, and all of these things as being, what we call barriers to employment. And you're saying like that is not a barrier to self-sufficiency.
We believe that these bears need to be knocked down, right? I think
Yeah.
we need to celebrate what they come to our country with.
Yeah.
And sewing is a universal language. Doesn't matter where you come from Africa, small village in Africa, in Bhutan, in mountains. A lot of them, especially refugees, they grow up, they have to make their own clothes. So mending and sewing is something they're familiar with.
Right.
But imagine then coming to a city like my city in Seattle. It's very high tech driven, right? You got to have your computer skills and all. It's overwhelming. So why don't we just center on what they're good at, and really foster that, building that confidence, that self empowerment. Because a lot of time, you don't know or not, refugees, when they resettle in the U.S., they really only get support from our government for 90 days.
Yeah.
And the travel to America, their airfare is not free. They have to pay back their travel debt. So they not only come here with a lot of, trauma already.
Right. Plus all the stress and
They have
of a relocation.
Those burden, the debt burden. So what's our solution? Our solution is to look at more their deficits, or is our solution to see how we can lift them up? And that's my focus, to say, let's lift them up.
Yeah. Yep. In March of 2020, everybody had to adapt. And one of the things your organization did was adapt to make face masks to help healthcare workers in your region. Talk a little bit about that decision and what it meant for your organization to adjust so quickly.
Well, to me, COVID was like a perfect storm. My background, I have over 25 years as a clinical pharmacist. I was in healthcare. I recognized the danger of the virus right away. You have to take it really seriously. And part of the reason I started my organization is also looking at upcycling. How can we use materials that we already have and create beautiful things?
Yeah.
And about month and a half before COVID, we just got about 200 unused bed sheets from Amazon returns. And Amazon is based in Seattle. And we were just trying to figure out what we're going to turn these, high thread count cotton sheets. They're usually, the higher the thread count, the more knit and the better protection you get against virus. So I thought immediately that these would be the best material to turn them into mask. However, at that time was making my jewelries and home goods, and quickly, pivot into making masks and also think outside the box, because I also need to pay women to make these masks and donate them. So I was able to work with our local Rotary Club, who come up with a challenge that if I can raise $10,000, they will match that, so we can focus on making a lot of masks quickly. And for me, that's how I started my first ever GoFundMe campaign. I post out there that refugees and immigrants make masks against COVID-19. That was my ask, and within 2 days, we raised over $10,000 and able to match the Rotary Clubs of over $20,000. So we were making these masks and give them quickly to healthcare organization because we will have an ask from Kaiser Permanente up in Everett, which is north of us, and that they would like at least 1,000 masks. So from that, it just kind of starting our county, our city noticed what we're doing. So the bus drivers need masks. So we make thousands of masks for bus drivers. And then we also lined up with an artisan group that was sponsored by Etsy to make masks for postal workers and healthcare providers on the East Coast. So we actually doubled the number of women because, you know, all of a sudden we couldn't rely on overseas supply, and the women with sewing skills become extremely valuable. You know, not only they're good at it, they're efficient at it, and they feel all of a sudden that they're really proud that they have the skill that can be so useful.
It's so crucial.
Needed.
Yeah, I mean, what a great way to contribute and feel, you know, really important, like you're, you know, really an asset in your community. Yeah. So what are some of the characteristics of your organization that made it able to be nimble like that?
Well, you know, for us, we always center on the artisans. You know, their needs and how they bring income is the most important. So being an upcyclers, the sustainability part allow us to use material that are donated or from local resources, allow us to have that extra margin to give to our women. And then we also leverage technology in a way of making things into videos, because COVID, we can't really see them in person. So we're actually making different types of masks. We have window masks, we have sip and snack masks, we have all kinds of masks. So every time we make a mask, like I just sip and snack mask, we actually get a trademark because we patent because it's a special mask. So we have to teach them how to make these by leveraging technology, by you know, step by step, and because that really helped to kind of show them how, and then and they can come in one by one to kind of make sure they get it. So being nimble and quickly adapt with technology, and then also just think smartly. You know, a lot of our artisans' husbands are in gig economy, driving Ubers, and they didn't have work, so we will utilize them to do contactless picking up and drop off for these masks that were made around the Seattle area.
Wow, so complicated. I mean, I'm so impressed with the logistics of this, right? I mean, the materials are all sourced so to keep them out of landfills, right? So you're partnering with Amazon to get a lot of returned material to reuse those. You're working with healthcare organizations. You're working with animal rescue organizations. Right? One of your programs is the Dog Bed Initiative. Your organization is just is making such effective use of partners in the community, right? I think that's really an interesting thing to talk about. Yeah.
So the animal project, you know, we are really practical to go zero waste as much as we can. So as a nonprofit, you know, we're realizing that selling commercial products alone would not be able to sustain, to support 20 plus artisans, our group, year round. So every few times a year, we actually pause and fundraise to make items our community would need. So in the coming up months for the winter season, we are having our artisans making fleece hats and neck warmers through our Friendships to Fleece campaign that will keep, you know, artisans making thousands of those, and we donate to different organizations, people experiencing homelessness, and you know, folks that could use those. Especially imagine you know, a homeless person, you know, getting a shower when you come out. There's a nice, you know, warm fleece hats and neck warmer to keep you warm during winter wet time in Seattle. And then the leftover from, you know, these fleece scraps, that's why we save them. In the springtime, we work with Seattle Humane and turn it into doggy and cat toys and knit them into a cat basket and then stuff them into doggy beds.
Right.
So you will see, if you come to our maker space, you will see bags of fabric scrap that's ready to be used next spring.
Gosh, like just layers and layers of creativity and innovation. One of the things that I think some organizations think about, for profits more than not for profits, is the concept of like multiple bottom lines,
Mm-hmm.
right? And measuring their impact in several ways at once. How do you know you're doing a good job? What are the elements of your impact that you're measuring?
Sure. You
How do
know, we have multiple impacts. You know, in terms of sustainability, we have a goal at least diverting over 5,000 pounds of textiles. So we probably only drop off center besides Goodwills and other donation where you can drop off fabric once a week. We have people can drop their fabric and we actually weight them, put it on the board. So we're tapping on how many items that we use them. And then we also very transparent on how many items that we turn it into products and what products. And it also translates into how much our women are earning from that. And so those are, you know, a very tangible measurement, but other bigger impact is that we serve a lot of Afghan women. A lot of them have been resettled here since the Taliban took over last summer. And even before that, we worked closely with another organization with their case manager was Afghan women. So the income they earn, not only for their family to pay rent and for supply for their kids, but they all send the money back home because they are really desperate that, you know, that even as little as they earn that's left over, that they need to send this money back to support their family. So we're very conscientious about how we can, you know, measure that. And then another thing is that we also make sure they get income from elsewhere. We work with another organization called Zero Waste Washington. They do mending pop up around the city 4 or 5 times a year. So we'll pay our artisan. They pay the artisan to be at those events, $50 an hour. And that is very great way for them to earn additional income. And 8 of our Afghan artisans that we are one of the 3 partners around the US with Etsy to open their Etsy shop so they can sell their handcrafted items and teach them how, as part of being having their micro business entrepreneur, is that we want to push more opportunity that they can have a say of how they want to operate.
Yeah, I mean, thinking about the time when they don't need you, right? Right. I think this is so important. You know, organizations can't get stuck in the service that they provide, right?
Yeah,
and be able to think about, like, when do people leave us?
Yeah, we want to just use this model to hopefully that we can onboarding more women, but at the same time, you know, hopefully, you know, with enough time, they build enough confidence. Maybe there's other connections that they feel free to also look for other opportunities as we teach them that little step at a time.
And talk a little bit about your upcoming initiative, your for-profit brand.
Well, you started that we were working on a first project with Kaiser Permanente, making a very specialized some medical product. And in the process of getting the project started, they were asking for our LLC or women minority, license. And we said, we're a nonprofit, we don't have that. And they said, well, we can't really work with you, but we are national, so why don't you go and become an LLC?
And for folks who aren't on the West Coast of the United States, Kaiser Permanente is probably one of the biggest health care providers. It's definitely the biggest in the country, right?
Yeah, so they have all the cities. So they really want to partner with us. So we realized that we have another opportunity is to get a government and big organizations contract by being women-owned, minority certified, and LLC. So we became refugees to number two to Artisans LLC as of the last fall. And then we are right now we are trying to get WeBank certification, and then we already submit our applications. So we believe that leveraging those opportunities can be very critical. We currently also found a grant that we got during COVID with our very big healthcare system called Swedish Providence. Providence is in, I believe, 9 different states or 7 or 9 different states on the West Coast. So we were able to start making medical scrubs for one of their hospital here in Seattle. And that's just another way to really think about how can we serve 100 women in our program.
And those scrubs, again, are made from returned bed sheets. Is that right?
Some of them are, but if they need a specific color and material, we can certainly work with that. But we do have sustainable medical scrubs that are made from bed sheets because we no longer need to make them into a lot of masks, and we still have these bed sheets. So, they are sustainable, and it's kind of like you wear it, you never leave your bed. It's great.
That's really interesting. I mean, I think that the reason that I bring this up is because I think sometimes we mistakenly think that being a not-for-profit is a business model, right? Or that being a for-profit is a business model. And it's not, it's a tax status, right? Yes. And there are opportunities associated with being organized one way or organized another. And, you can be a 501c3 or you can be an LLC, and you could still be working on social justice issues and working on environmental issues, and working in sustainable ways.
Yeah, so it's kind of forced us to think outside the box again and think about what that structure like. And I'm very happy that I'm in this program called 10,000 Small Business Program to kind of really help me to gain the skill I need, as a healthcare provider for 25 years and still pretty new running my organization. I think having a tactical business organizational skill that can really help me to really bring the organization to my vision of serving at least 100 refugee women. And we are about a third of the way right now.
It's amazing. That's amazing and so impressive, right? And these are obviously not issues that are going to go away, right? I mean, the refugee crisis is not going to go away in the short term, and the environmental crisis is not going to go away in the short term. But your partnerships outside of your organization, right, and your willingness to work on big problems, I think, is really, really admirable.
I think not to be afraid, think of outside the box. One of the things that I'm looking at, what are my local partners that I can work with? And, Seattle, we're where the Starbucks started. And it got me thinking that they must be roasting their coffee here in Seattle. And what do they do with all these coffee bean burlap bags after they roast the coffee beans? Because they are not recyclable. So it's one thing lead to another. We were able to collect those hundreds of pounds, not even 1,000 pounds, hundreds of burlap from Starbucks. And the interesting is they all come from different parts of the world, and we turn it into tote bags and other reusable, basket and other items. And Starbucks actually bought them back. These tote bags for their employee store, so the employees can have options to, have that as part of their, accessory things to take to work. And then Tommy Bahama is also based in Seattle, and they don't make anything in the U.S. Everything is overseas. But, they have a lot of they change fabric style each season to differentiate the product. So they would take all their desk stock in Seattle as well to see what they can do, and then we start partnering with them, turning their desk stock into napkins, bags, and other items that are limited edition, that's made in USA. So they will have a great story to tell about their effort on sustainability and ethical, handmade efforts. So I think that is a win-win model, and I would like to see more Ray partnering with major apparel companies in the US and look at how can we be their solution to some of their problems.
I really appreciate that framing. How can a company that specializes in apparel, right, or specializes in coffee, where these organizations are just more and more and more, their customers are going to ask them, right? This is going to become a demand. How do you demonstrate environmental sustainability? So, you're providing a way that they can take action. They can do something positive in that area without actually doing it themselves, right? Without creating a new business arm.
Yeah.
That's a great way to think about it.
Yeah. So you mentioned about, what are different ways, as a nonprofit, you fundraise. And then for us, we also make product to sell. But one of the things that we moved to our new space in the beginning of the year, and it is 7,500 square foot of space, and partly funded by our county. And my dream is really elevate their work. I am so impressed by the amount of talents in this group of women, from the amazing, complicated, intricate embroideries by our Afghan women, to amazing beadwork from, our Ethiopian community. So they're all so talented that I want to use our space as another way to showcase these talents that are usually not be able to find in galleries or other places. So I envision that they will be able to earn income as a designer and creator of their work. So one of the ways that we are initially going to make this work is that we get approached by Seattle Opera. They're going to have an Afghan opera in February 2022. And I threw an idea of having artisans to make this beautiful embroidery, fantastic abaya, which is a cover for the Muslim culture. You have to wear a black thing to cover your body, so not to be showing off too much. But we're going to do the reverse. We want to show them how talented our women are to create these beautiful embroidery by Afghan women. So again, just think about how we can use our space as an innovation center, training, and then storage for sustainable items, and also potential refugees art center to really elevate their work. So that is sort of my ultimate dream, and we are in the process to make it happen.
That's fantastic. And I want to make sure that everybody notices the gorgeous necklace that you were wearing.
Yeah, so I started the program making just jewelry because I realizing it didn't take much room in their homes, and it's small. They can put it underneath their bed. But then most women, I start women, they really like to sew. So, you also kind of have to kind of match what they really wanted to do. So we started doing the more sewing projects. So now it's sort of combo and a lot more sewing currently because of COVID. Nobody's going for a long time. Nobody's going out enjoying jewelry, wearing jewelry to go out.
So, if our viewers are really inspired about these products or want to purchase some of these products, where can they go to learn more about your organization?
Yes, we are at Refugees with S Arts, so with S, so refugeesarts.org. And you can learn about our organization and looking at the things that we're making, and meet the artisans and our board of directors all there.
Fantastic. Ming-Ming, thank you so much for joining me today. This has been a really great conversation. And we will have you back in 6 months and hear about all the great changes that you're making.
Oh, I'll be happy to, but thank you for having me to share with your viewers.
Have a great weekend, everybody.
Okay, you too.